Alright guys, here we are back with the second video in the series that I told you about. And here's the 130XE. Kind of cleaned it up. Like I said, it was clean to begin with, but as you can see here, I've got a power cord connected. And this power cord I actually ordered custom from a guy on eBay. This power cord actually goes to a USB power source. So no more of the old Atari power bricks. Those things fail, you don't want to use those. You want to go with a new cable that uses a USB power source. And I've got a monitor cable here connected, and this monitor cable is actually going through this capture device so that we can capture the output of my monitor so I can show it to you on the video. And what I'd like to do is, today we're going to talk a little bit about Atari Basic. This book is great. It's a great introduction and an in-depth look into how to program in Atari Basic, and Atari Basic is actually pretty feature-rich and pretty powerful. But before we go into that, I'd like to just show you one of the other features of the Atari computer, and that is you can get games and programs on cartridge. And the nice thing about using the cartridges is they load instantly. So I'm going to take this in the back of the 130XE, there's a cartridge port. We'll plug that in, and you'll see as soon as we fire up the computer, bingo, there's Pacman, copyright 1982 from Atari. So let's go ahead and start a game of that. It's actually a pretty good version of the arcade edition. Very smooth, good sound, good graphics. And I really, really love playing games on the Atari 8-bit line of computers. The graphics are great, the sound is great, and it's instant. You don't have to wait for a disc to load. So anyway, I thought you might have fun seeing the old version of Pacman, the original Pacman. I'm not the greatest at it. I can play pretty good. We'll go ahead and let him eat me. I'm using the Starfighter joystick. I ordered this on eBay for $23, I think. It's a good joystick for playing on the Commodore 64 and also the Atari 8-bit line of computers. So let's go ahead and take that cartridge out. Now, one of the great things about the Atari series computers after the 400 and the 800, starting with the 600 XL, I believe, is as soon as you power on the computer with no cartridge, you're instantly into Basic, Atari Basic. And that's really nice because we can go in here and immediately we can go ahead and start programming. And I'll do the standard Hello World program. There you go. Instant programming right out of the box. We'll break that. So as you can see, the Atari line of computers, starting with the 600 XL, has Atari Basic built into it. We don't need a cartridge, we don't need to load a disk operating system. We've got it built right in. And that's really nice. So let's talk about Atari Basic real quick. For those of you who program in Basic, you know, getting started and programming in Atari Basic is going to be very easy for you. All the programs have line numbers. One thing nice about the Atari Basic is it has an immediate mode, so you can type in commands and it will execute those commands immediately. Oops. Let's do that again. 10 times 10 is 100. So not only can you execute commands on the fly, but you can also put them in a program, which is nice. So let's go ahead and change line 20 to say print 10 times 10, run. So we got Hello World and the value of 100. Very nice. So let's take a look at the book. And this was the book that I read when I first got my Atari, and it taught me Basic. And you can see here it goes through everything from, let's actually start at the beginning here. So we've got getting started, the Atari editor, which is what we're typing in, saving and loading programs to tape and disk, calculations, they go into numeric values, go-tos, read and data. And then it has, after each chapter, there's what's called a programmer's corner. In the programmer's corner, they go in a little bit in depth about some of the commands, the restore, list, continue, and stop. They talk about numbers and calculations. Chapter 2 goes into writing the program, planning the program, if-then statements, and so on. Chapter 3 starts with graphics and sound, I believe. And then we get into math operations, absolute values, sign values, random values, square roots, integers. Again, very nicely laid out. Chapter 5, character strings. So basically, what I'd like to do is just show you a couple things in BASIC today. And then, by the way, this video series was inspired by a gentleman who has a channel on YouTube called 8-Bit Show and Tell. I love his video format, which inspired me to actually create this format where you can see me typing and have the video of the output up in the upper left-hand corner here, right there. The screen that I'm typing on. I highly recommend you guys go check his channel. It's called 8-Bit Show and Tell. He focuses on the Commodore, at least he has up until this point. So it inspired me to pull out the Atari and create some videos kind of similar in his format and fashion, but on the Atari computer. So check his channel out. Any suggestions that you have that we can do on this channel regarding the Atari, things that you'd like me to talk about or research or investigate or type in as far as BASIC, that we can get into that as well. Speaking of BASIC and other languages, I have an assembler editor cartridge. I definitely want to do some videos on assembly language. I used to program in assembly language years ago. I haven't done it in years. But with this cartridge, we can put it in, we get an editor, debugger, and an assembler. We can actually type in programs as well. So I'd like to do some of those as well and get down to the power. From Atari Basic, you can actually call assembly subroutines and get the speed of assembly language for things that you need in the Atari Basic. So that's kind of nice too. The other thing I'd like to show you is the Atari has, actually let me go to the chapter here so I don't misquote this. I believe there's 8 graphic modes, or 15 graphics modes, I'm sorry, that the Atari supports. Let's take a look here real quick. So I guess depending on the model of the Atari computer and how old it is, you'll have either 9, 12, or 15 graphics modes. So 3 text modes, 6 regular graphics modes, and 3 or 6 special graphics modes. All right. So being that this is a 130EXE, one of the later lines in the computer line, I'm going to assume we have 15 graphics modes. Okay. Basically, with any BASIC, all of your lines have to start with a line number. So, for example, line 10, we can create comments with the remark statement. You know, we can do this is a test program. Now, the way you list your program is with the list keyword. Okay, that'll give you your listing of the current program. So if we want to get rid of line 20 from the old program, we're just going to type 20, hit enter. That'll get rid of it. So in graphics mode 0, when you first start the computer, there's 40 columns left to right, and it starts off with the column 2 being set. In other words, the left column being column 2, and the right column with a margin of 39, I want to say, or 38. Now, when I'm programming in BASIC, one thing I like to do is I like to reset the margins to 0 and 40 on the right side, or 39, because you have 0 to 39. So the way you do that is you poke location 82 in decimal, which in hex is 52, with 0. Now you can see how my margin went from 2 to 0 on the left side, and the right margin, which is decimal 83, or hex 53, for the right margin, we're going to set that to 39. And now what you see is we're starting at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. So now we got a true 40 column screen. So that's something neat you can do. And by the way, when you reset BASIC, that will actually come back to normal with a 2 on the left side and I believe 38 on the right side. So it's just something I like to do. I like to poke those 2 locations when I start my programming in BASIC so that I have a full 40 column with the characters. All right. All the line numbers need a line. All the lines need to start with a line number. And your line numbers, I suggest leaving some values in between, so it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, so on. That way you've got room to go back in and actually add line numbers later on if you need to put some code in between of those. All right. So the way we get output on the Atari Basic is by using the print command. And like we did before, hello world. And we can actually print more things. And we can list that, and we can run it. All right. Now, there's a command called goto, which will actually redirect the program back to a specific line number. So for example, if we tell it to go to 20, and we run it, it's going to print those two lines over and over and over and over and over again. Pretty cool. And by the way, I'm hitting the break key whenever I would like to stop the listing or stop the program from running. And in BASIC, there's actually a continue command, C-O-N-T, where you can actually continue a program if you break it. Inside BASIC, you can stop a program at any time. So for example, 40, we can go stop. We can run it, and it tells you stopped at line 40. So continue is not going to do anything because there was nothing after that. But we can actually stop a program either with the break key or with the stop key, or the stop command. Now, one thing to notice is that you can set the keyboard by pressing the caps lock key, and you can actually go to lowercase, but the commands are not recognized in lowercase. All of the Atari commands and the BASIC commands have to be typed in uppercase. Now, you can go in and you can add strings. For example, let's add line 35, print, and we can go proper. This is a proper sentence. We got to go back to caps mode to do the list, to bring the program up. So just a little note about that. Uppercase for commands and in your programming. Now, typically we would save our programs to disk. I don't have the disk drive yet. I've ordered it, and it should be here any day, but once I get the disk drive here, I'll show you how we can actually save our programs to disk. I'm not going to do cassette. I don't have a cassette recorder, and that would be too slow anyway. So, as I showed you a little bit earlier in the immediate mode, we can do calculations in Atari Basic just by typing. Oops. By the way, we can use the arrow keys to go back up to any line and finish where we started. So we can do calculations in immediate mode, and we can also do them in the program. So for example, we can do .234.56 and 439. Actually, let's not say and. Let's say the sum of 234.56 and 439.01 is, and then on line 50, let's go ahead and print the sum. 234.56 plus 439.01. Let's run that. And there you go. We actually did addition right there by using the print statement and putting the two numbers with the plus sign in between, which represents addition. So in Atari Basic, the plus sign is addition, the minus sign is subtraction, the asterisk is multiplication, and the slash is division. Okay. So we can just as easily go 9 divided by 3, and you get your answer of 3. So Atari Basic uses scientific notation for displaying very small numbers and very large numbers. So any value less than 0.001 or greater than 9999999. How many nines is that? 11 nines. Anything larger than 11 nines will be displayed in scientific notation. Okay? So for example, in immediate, if we type print .001, we're going to get 1.0e minus 03, which in scientific notation means that we've got 3 zeros. We got to move the decimal 3 zeros to the left because we've got the negative sign there. So that would actually end up being 0.001. Okay. Now if we do a print 0.01, we get 0.01 because that's not smaller than the range of what the Atari Basic will display. So now we can show a very large number in scientific notation. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Now as you can see there, we've got 1.1234567 plus 10. So obviously what that means is we've got 10 places after the decimal that we're going to move the decimal 10 places. So once we do that, we'll end up with our 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. This is important to remember when you're dealing with calculations in BASIC, the way that it's going to display the number in scientific notation. So real quick, how do we get numbers into our BASIC program? Well, we can use the input statement for that. So for example, let's get rid of line 50, let's get rid of line 40, and let's actually get rid of line 35, and let's get rid of 20. We should end up with just, let's get rid of 32. So now we got a fresh program here. So let's go ahead and type line 20, and let's ask the user to input a number. Okay, so we're going to print out, input a number, and line 30, we're going to actually use the input statement with a variable called x. Line 40, we're going to ask them to input another number. And line 50, input y. And line 60, we're going to print out the sum of those two. Yeah. Still getting used to this keyboard. And line 70, we're actually going to print the sum. All right, so let's run that and see what we get. So input a number. Let's do 5. Input another number, 6. The sum of x plus y is 11. There you go. We've inputted two numbers and we've outputted the sum. We could do this all day long with different types of numbers, different types of operators, and we can do all kinds of calculations and create whatever program we'd like to do that. We talked briefly about the go-to statement. The go-to statement is a branching statement. It allows you to branch to another part of the code or go to another section of the code. So in order to repeat this program, we could say go to 20. So if we run that, that would basically do our first two sets of inputs, print the sum, and then ask for another two, 1 and 1. And so on and so on and so on. So the go-to command is a branching command. It allows you to jump to another portion of the program by line number. The other thing we can do in Atari Basic is we can do exponents, or raising a number to a power. So for example, we could do 2, and the way we show exponents or raising a number to a power is we use, on this keyboard it's going to be, I saw it earlier, shift asterisk, which looks like a little upper pointing triangle. So for example, 2 raised to the 3rd power is going to be 8. Okay? That's called the power sign or exponent sign. Now the other thing we need to talk about is the precedence of operations. So basically if we were to type a line that says 4 times 3 plus 2 raised to the 3rd power minus 1 divided by 4. Okay? Without guidelines, it probably wouldn't be possible to know. You probably would get many different results actually from this calculation, and depending on where we start and what order we perform the calculations. Atari Basic has a built-in order in which it performs all calculations. So basically we have at our disposal 5 mathematical operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and exponentation. So, did I say that right? Exponentiation. Sorry about that. So BASIC will always do the exponents first, then the multiplication, then the division, then the addition, and then the subtraction. So, given a choice between operations of equal precedence, such as multiplication, division, it will start on the left and work to the right. So with this example, 2 to the third will be calculated first, which would then make the expression, it would reduce the expression down to 4 times 3 plus 8 minus 1 divided by 4. So that would be the first operation, okay? The next thing that happened would be the multiplication division are next in priority. So starting from the left and working to the right, it's going to evaluate 4 times 3, and that's going to leave us with 12 plus 8 minus 1 divided by 4. Okay? So then the division is going to happen next. All right? So that would leave us with 12 plus 8 minus 0.25. And then finally, the addition and the subtraction are carried out left to right, which would give us 19.75. It's kind of important to know this. The only other way to change this order of operations is to use parentheses. So for example, in order to change the order of operations, we could do 1 plus 2. Let's say we wanted to add 1 plus 2 first before we multiply it times 8. So this should come out to 3 times 8, which is 24. Whereas if we didn't have the parentheses there, the 2 would have been multiplied by the 8 first and then added to the 1. So very important to know about parentheses and order of operations when you're doing math in Atari Basic. Can't stress enough also the idea about remarks, okay? So for example, here in line 10, we've got an REM, which stands for a remark. This is a test program. Well, throughout your program, as you develop more and more complicated programs, you want to put remarks in there that allow you to know what that section of the code is doing. So for example, line 65, we could put a remark that says, I always like to use asterisks too, add the values together. It may not seem that important to this program, but as you can see, we can add the remarks at different parts in the program to explain what that part of the program is doing. It becomes very important as the programs become larger and larger. Okay? Are we still recording? Yes. Now, the way that you clear out your memory for your program and to start a new program, let's say I've saved this program and I'm going to start a new program. We're going to type new. And what that does is it wipes out and starts us ready with a new program. Okay. So in BASIC, we're going to talk about one other set of statements, which is called the if-then. So BASIC has the ability to alter the order in which a statement is executed depending on the outcome of a decision. It's called a conditional transfer. All right. So let's suppose we want let's say we want the computer to count to 7 and quit. In this case, we would want to go to 115 on the condition that the counter is less than or equal to 7, and that's easy in BASIC. So in other words, let's type a quick program in, and we're going to call this counting 1 to 7. All right. So 110, we're going to set our counter variable. I know we haven't talked about variables, but just bear with me. 115, we're going to print the counter. 120, this is where we test the counter and we say, actually no, this is where we're actually going to increment the counter. The counter is equal to the counter plus 1 at 130 if our counter is less than or equal to 7, then go to 115. Let's run the program and then I'll explain it to you. Okay, so what we've done here is we've said at line 110, we've set our counter to 1. Counter is a variable. A variable in BASIC is a name that's associated with a number or some sort of variable. So counter equals 1, and since it's a variable, we can modify the contents of counter at any time. So then we print the counter, and then we say to the computer, counter equals counter plus 1. So whatever counter is, we're going to assign it to itself plus 1. That's what the line 120 says. And then line 130, we're doing a test to see if a condition is true. If the counter is less than or equal to 7, go back to line 115 and print itself and continue again. So basically what we're doing is we're continuing to print the counter and increment the counter as long as the value is less than or equal to 7. Once it hits a value greater than 7, then the program stops because there's no more instructions after that. In other words, it falls through and doesn't execute the goto statement. Now, in the if-then statements, there's 6 options we can use. So we can use the less than, we can use the less than or equal to, we can use the equals or equal to, we can use the not equal to, we have the greater than, and we have the greater than or equal to. Okay? So using those 6 options, or what we call relational operators, you can basically control the flow of the program in your if-then statement and based on certain conditions. So let's go back to our program. And let's modify this guy. Let's basically tell BASIC, by the way, I can hit the insert key on my keyboard here. Oh, let's go back, I did that wrong. Oh, excuse me one second guys while I figure out how to use this keyboard again. Control plus the arrow keys gets you to a specific line, and then Control Insert allows me to insert a space under the cursor. So there we go, that's what I was looking at. So let's make this where we will continue if the counter is less than 20. So this program should count from 1 until 19. Let's see if we're right. There we go. So basically what we said was as long as the counter is less than 20, go to 115. Easy peasy stuff. All right, so I think we're going to stop right here. I think I've gone long enough in this video. I don't want to make the video too long. We'll come back in the next video and we'll take a look at some more basic commands. We'll put some more statements together, and then hopefully we'll get into some graphics and some sound and doing some kind of cool things with peek and poke, getting down into the bears of the Atari. So anyway, make sure you subscribe to my channel and like. And if you have any comments or any suggestions, anything I'm doing right or I'm doing wrong, put them in there so I can make the next video and the videos after this better. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.